question number one. Michigan's offense will look more like the CMU game than the Oklahoma game when it matters. Are you buying or are you selling that?
The Nebraska game offense will look more like the CMU game when it matters. It better, right? If not, then they're in trouble, in my opinion. I don't care how Nebraska's fans have been complaining about their defensive line. We saw it in week one getting pushed around, guys, by Cincinnati's offensive line. And we thought, boy, those guys look smaller. And so I would imagine, yes, it is going to look more like the CMU game than the Oklahoma game when it matters. I am buying that. Sharon Moore's not going to be there either to say shut it down, if we're being honest, if that is indeed what happened against Oklahoma. And, some people are suggesting that. I'm not saying that was the case. But again, it certainly looked like the offense that was in place when Kirk Campbell was there last year. And what's the common denominator? It's Sharon Moore. So, being a little bit more afraid to throw the ball. So I'm buying there. I think they're going to let they're going to live or die with Bryce Underwood. And I think that's what they should do because he and Justice Haynes are your two best players.
You're going to have much more resistance, no offense to the Chips, than, the rest of the way now that you're in Big Ten play. But I think that generally speaking, the offense will look closer to the way they wanted to attack that defense than it did against Oklahoma. I would buy that for sure. And again, it goes back to some of the comments that Biff Poggi made after the game. Gives me a little more confidence in saying that because of the detail he went into about how Sharon Moore felt strongly about making those adjustments and talking today, let their players play. And he's got the green light to do whatever he wants to do. And, he's just a freshman. He's going to make some mistakes. Any player is going to. But he's not a typical freshman either, and he's one of your better players. And I know that's something I'm sure we'll get to too. But I think it's going to look more dynamic, which is, if that's a lesson they learn coming out of Oklahoma, then good.
I'm buying it too. It's a clean sweep here, only because I think last week, I don't want to say it was the nail in the coffin for what we would refer to as the Harbaugh style of offensive game plan, but we talked about that a lot last week, where you don't have the offensive line and you don't have sort of the detail-oriented savant that you did leading your football team. You gotta be a little more aggressive. You have to be more attacking, and you have to use what your best players can do. And that leads into buy or sell bullet point number 2 here, fellas, which is buy or sell. Bryce Underwood is Michigan's best player already.
I just said that, I believe. And his competition is Justice Haynes, who is a fantastic back. Clay called this one. I was on the Jordan Marshall train, and after they were calling him special last year, after seeing what he did in the Alabama game last year, and you know what? Justice Haynes is the better back. Not only is he the better back, but he looks like a special back. His feet, his acceleration when he turns the corner. I think I underestimated his speed a little bit. He is outrunning guys that have angles on him that are pretty speedy guys. So love what I've seen from him. Is Bryce Underwood Michigan's best player already? I think we'll know after Saturday. I really do. If he comes out and plays well there, even in a loss, then I think it's pretty clear. But I think that they believe that he is one of the two, and that's why they are giving him so much more so much more responsibility in the offense and trusting him more. So he's special, guys. Absolutely better than I even expected. I can't believe that we get to cover this kid and watch this kid play in Ann Arbor. I've seen so many quarterbacks come in here. Donovan McNabb, the Oregon guys over the years, dual threat quarterbacks where you're just holding your breath on every play and hoping to God that they, if it's an off schedule play that he's not killing you. Now Michigan's got that, and I am stoked to see what he becomes. He's going to just get better and better.
I'm buying that it's plausible, and I agree that if he shows out and they win this game on Saturday, largely due to what he does, then he probably jumps into that category. And it is funny. It is between him and Justice Haynes right now. And you would think coming into the year that maybe the best player on this team would be on defense, but we haven't quite seen that yet. Somebody step up as a star player. It is truly a no-star defense at this point, and those guys still have time to develop, and someone could emerge as that person. But the two best players on the team right now, I would say, are on the offensive side. And Underwood is easily the most valuable already because of what's behind him or what's not behind him, and because of the position he plays and the physical talent and by all accounts, he's much more advanced mentally too than any other freshman I've ever seen at that position. So he's the most valuable. It's very, very plausible, and you can make an argument that he's the best. So I will buy, that it's between him and Haynes at least.
And I will say Jay Sean Barham is climbing the charts there.
He can state that case. Yeah.
Yep.
He absolutely can. To me, yes, it's 1-2 or 1A, 1B, however you want to put it. But I will sell this for now. I think it's Justice Haynes only until I see what I've seen from Justice Haynes so far is that he is a guy, and pardon my French, earmuffs, has shown an ability to turn chicken shit into chicken salad with some of those big plays that he's had with some of the poor blocking. If he gets to the second level of a defense and he has a one-on-one, he's going to win that one-on-one. I've been incredibly impressed with what we've seen from him, and I also think he has more to give. I think that we really haven't seen Michigan explore him as a pass catcher yet either, and I think that's something in his repertoire that we will see. But Bryce Underwood, here's the thing. Bryce Underwood having the license to run, it could have these two neck and neck with each other all season long because they have benefits that go towards each other on that. So I'm selling, but it's very close. And it might not take too long for the young quarterback to supplant him. Buy or sell point number 3. The offensive line will be a strength by the time the season ends.
I just want serviceable plus. Okay. I'm selling this one. There are just too many question marks. Even when Gio Al-Hadi was in there, he wasn't good enough. And that's saying something for a 5th-year guy. So not to be overly critical, but these guys are who they are. Somebody asked over there, why not move Blake Frazier to tackle and move Evan Link inside, which a lot of people were calling for before the season. That might be one of their best combinations. So, but as far as being a strength, no. I think if they can get to where they are solid, really serviceable plus against the better teams, then I'll be happy.
Yeah, I'm selling this pretty easily. Solid would be good enough, I think, if the defense proves to be elite and Underwood develops and continues to get better, and you still have a semblance of a run game with home run hitting ability with Justice Haynes back there, kind of a guy who's going to throw some jabs at you, and Jordan Marshall as well. And all the things around them, if they could be solid, that would be good enough. But I do not think this is going to be a strength. I mean, they'd have to surpass Justice Haynes. They'd have to surpass Bryce Underwood. They'd have to surpass the linebacking core, which has talent and depth. They'd have to surpass the defensive line, the safeties. I mean, there are a lot of strengths, I think, ahead of them right now.
I'll sell that as well. Had to throw a sell topic in here. Mm-hmm. Just buy everything. I don't think any of the tackles are going to kick inside either. If that's going to happen, you do have a bye week coming up where maybe that's something you explore, but they don't seem as positionally flexible as maybe they'd like to say that they are when it comes to kicking those guys inside. So we'll pause that for a second to take a $4.99 super chat from Daniel Schutz, who says, what if Nebraska employs the same game plan as Venables? How will we stop Dylan? I almost said Dominic Raiola. Dylan Raiola's running. Do you buy Bell returning punts and kicks? Love you guys. So he's sneaking 3 questions in there.
He is. If they do, they don't have the same personnel. I think there are some Nebraska fans that have kind of deluded themselves into thinking that they have the same talent level on defense. They don't. I don't think there's going to be anybody bull rushing the Michigan lineman, the Michigan center back into the quarterback, or the Michigan left tackle, even Link, even though that's been the case a few times. I think Michigan's got enough up front to handle that if they throw that at them. So I'm not as concerned about that. So plus you've got putting more on Bryce Underwood's plate. So they're going to be harder to defend, even if they do that, because they're not going to be bunching everything up and making it easier to defend. So how do you stop Raiola's running? He's not the runner, in my opinion, that Mateer is. You got to be gap sound and have gap integrity. I think that they made that a mission in practice last week. So just don't let him out of there, keep him in the pocket. And I think you'll be okay. And I think that will be an emphasis. So not all that concerned there. And do I buy Bell returning punts and kicks? No, I don't. He doesn't return kicks right now. Oh, Bell. I'm sorry. Kendrick Bell? Is that who he's talking about?
It's the only bell
I can think of.
Yeah, right. It must be. I don't know because we haven't seen him do it. But I do know that I don't buy Samaj Morgan back there anymore. I think I've seen enough of that and enough of the Keystone Cops operation back there that's been pretty much embarrassing. And as Biff Poggi said today, that was a bad look. I would have to agree with him. But thanks, Daniel. You're a great friend to us.
Yeah, I think you don't have nearly the defensive line. Like there's no Marvin Jones Jr. and all those guys that Oklahoma had that completely wrecked that game. They're not on Nebraska's side, and they lost a lot on their defensive line from last season. Ty Robinson is no longer there. He was a stud last year. He's now on the Philadelphia Eagles. And you could go on and on there. So I think the biggest thing Oklahoma did was win up front. Michigan made some plays down the field when they did open it up with Donovan McCulley, Channing Goodwin on a nice play. The secondary of Nebraska, I think, is better than Oklahoma. They look to be really, really good. But I don't think you can just, become Brent Venables. Like if everyone could just do that, they would do it, right? So that's hard to do. He's one of the best defensive coordinators in the game. He's won 3 national championships calling defensive plays. How do you stop Raiola running? I mean, he only really runs when he has a clear lane and, there's nothing else really downfield. He's not a big runner. So I think that, if Michigan can get enough pressure, not make the defensive backs cover for so long, they're going to have a pretty solid day defensively, I would say. And yeah, maybe Ron Bellamy can return punts. I don't know. I don't know what the other Bell is, but I haven't seen Kendrick Bell working back there in warmups or anything.
Yeah, Dylan Raiola last year, 50 carries, minus 65 yards. Now he did have a 38-yard run. This year, 9 carries for 19 yards. So he's not, John Mateer has the thighs of Max Bredesen. So he's basically a running back that plays quarterback too and does a very good job. But Dylan Raiola is not that type of guy. So it's not a one-to-one comparison. Moving on to the next buy or sell narrative. This is another offensive one. Mostly on offense here. Buy or sell. Michigan has an adequate amount of pass-catching talent.
Adequate. Well, they better start catching the ball, right? That's number one. They're dropping too many passes. It's been the case in practice for 2 or 3 weeks, they've said. Overall, adequate. When you've got a quarterback like Bryce Underwood that makes you look better, then I lean toward are they among the best in the Big Ten? No. Adequate's an interesting word. That makes it tough because
deliberate, by the way.
I don't doubt it. You sly dog, you. But I think when Marlon Klein and Hogan Hansen are both healthy, then I'm going to say maybe. How's that? I'm hedging. I'm going to wait a week and then I'll tell you. But I think when you got a couple tight ends out there that can catch and give you another option, that's great. But adequate, I would say adequate minus. So probably sell. Yeah.
I'm selling too. Inadequate is just like adequate for what?
Right.
I know you did it on purpose, Anthony, and it's very thought provoking. I'd say it's not adequate enough to win a national championship. And unless you do that, right, you're not satisfied with anything. They were looking for other wide receivers in the transfer portal. They didn't land some of them. They wanted to upgrade there. I think they have. I think it's actually a pretty solid group of receivers when you factor in a healthy Marlon Klein, a healthy Hogan Hansen, what Donovan McCulley can bring you. I think Channing Goodwin is solid and Samaj Morgan has his role. But I don't see it. I still would power rank it as one of the, lower rated position groups on this football team. But I think it can be adequate enough for them to make the college football playoff if the defense is really good. If Bryce Underwood, again, improves, progresses, becomes the player that we think he can and that he will be in time. But if that accelerates, then yes. And if the run game's pretty good, if the offensive line holds up and Justice Haynes continues to do what he's doing. So adequate to be a good team, but I wouldn't say that they're satisfied with what they're going off of right now with the wide receivers. And the stat with those drops, 9 drops so far this season, that ranks, or I believe 13 drops, it might be. Someone can fact check me there, but whatever it is, it's the 9th most in the country through 3 weeks. They need to start catching the football. Goodwin had one. That was a fastball from Bryce, but Samaj dropped an easy one the other day. I think there were 4 or 5 drops against Oklahoma. You can't have those when, you got to help your quarterback out. He's helping you out a lot by throwing you open. And when you have opportunities, you got to come down with the football.
Yeah, I think it's so arbitrary because I just jotted these down and said we were going to do it on the show. I think to me, adequate would be like middle of the road in the Big Ten. Do I think that they have an upward trajectory of a middle of the road wide receiver room? I do. I think they could potentially be slightly better than that, but not much more than that. I think to a certain extent, it's going to depend on guys like Donovan McCulley being a little bit more of a factor. He's got the target share, not so much of the production through the first 3 weeks, only 10 catches. Samaj, I think, is a fairly known commodity at this point. A guy like Andrew Marsh could certainly lift that ceiling up. Hogan Hansen, how about that catch along the sideline where he kind of mossed a guy? So PFF
pushed off
a little bit, but let the boys play. PFF charted that as Bryce Underwood's first big-time throw as a college quarterback. So good throw, even better catch. I'm buying it, but I'm not super confident in that.
Can I say one thing about that? Adequate for Michigan? Absolutely not. Michigan's receiving room should be far better than that, especially when you have as talented a quarterback as Bryce Underwood. And as we found out a couple Fridays ago, we do believe strongly that will be an issue that they address in the portal and obviously through recruiting as well. Who wouldn't want to play in this offense with Bryce Underwood?
Yeah, and if he's showing already that he can make a room full of guys that leave a lot to be desired and make them, as I put it, adequate, this is going to be a lot more appealing a situation than maybe it was in the portal this time around where they kicked the tires on some guys, but just couldn't quite finish it off. All right, I have two more here. Finally, we're flipping to the defensive side of the ball, and really it's the only one I have on defense. Okay. The other one's more of a wide-ranging narrative, but buy or sell. Rod Moore will have a major impact this season.
Buying, and I think he's going to improve as he gets back. And by Ohio State, I think he's going to be – he might not be 100%, but he's going to be close enough, and he's going to make a major impact. And I was talking to our resident football coaches on the board about this, Mr. Shark and Not Tom, and different people in the building. And they said, what he does is he gets everybody in the right place. You're not going to have the breakdowns that we've had. Even in the zone defense against Central Michigan at times, there were some guys open that shouldn't have been. New Mexico, same thing. And it's some of the nuances of getting guys lined up and being that quarterback on the field are absolutely huge. So he could play at 75 or 80% and have a major impact on this defense. So, and I do think that they said he could have played last week. He could have played 2 weeks ago. Honestly, he was cleared to. They're being careful with him because they don't want to screw up his long-term potential as a football player. And Biff Poggi said that today as well. He said, this is a marathon, not a sprint. You have to look out for your player first, and you don't want to bring him back before he's ready. So, but I do believe that, and I can't wait to see him play football again. He is one of my favorite Michigan defensive players ever to watch, given his playmaking ability and what he brings to this team.
I'm buying, too, that he will have a major impact this season. I don't know that we're going to look back on this year, given that he hasn't played yet, and I think he has a lot of rust to shake off. And we're not going to say that he was one of the best defenders on this team or he had the most tackles or most interceptions or whatever. But at some point when he gets fully healthy and he gets comfortable again, he hasn't played in, I think, 616 days from today, a competitive football game since the national championship game. Like, it's going to take him some time, but it took him some time 2 years ago. He had an off-season procedure in 2023 and then, had some rough moments early on when he started to come back. And then he rounded into form and was an elite player at the end of the year and made one of the biggest plays in Michigan football history. He did that. So, yes, he's going to do it again, but it's going to be a little bit later on in the year. I would love to see him out there this week, maybe on like first and second down where they're not going to go after him as much. I think he can still tackle. Interested to see what he looks like moving around out there. But I think at some point he will have a major impact on this season.
Yeah, he's going to have an impact on the season. At this point, it's maybe the better question would be buy or sell that it will be this weekend. Because if that were the question, I think I'd be selling that a little bit, only because it seems like they want him in bubble wrap until he is the Rod Moore that we know and love. And to me, the question would be, will we ever see that that guy to that extent, given some of the injuries he's had. I think we'll get something pretty close to it this weekend. I'm not so sure. But because now you're in a point where you're talking about how last week was a get right game. What better time to knock the rust off and maybe just give him 5 snaps, 10 snaps, where you have a chance to do that, and maybe there you take that first hit, and it's, that's a lot of rust knocked off there. But to do it now in a game against Nebraska, we'll see. And you have a bye week next week, so maybe post bye is when we see a little closer to vintage Rodmore. All right, I have one more here.
Hold on. I do want to add one thing there, Anthony. Biff Poggi did say they aren't going to put him in any positions where, they aren't going to set him up to fail either. So
right.
I think you're absolutely right about that. So, 10, 15 snaps on downs where he's not going to be stressed too much or something, then yeah, I think that's, and not ask him to do too much. So I think you're absolutely right about that.
Last one, wide-ranging, super difficult to answer question right now, but non-conference play is over. Buy or sell, Michigan is a college football playoff caliber team.
Right now I'm selling, and they can change my mind on Saturday, because I think if they win that game, then they have a chance to be. And I think they will have 2 losses then, maybe going into the Ohio State game with an opportunity there. You look at that Washington game, that's going to be tricky. But I would say right now, given what we saw against Oklahoma guys and the questions on the offensive line and the defense not being as dominant as I think I expected it to be, I think I would have to sell.
I'm buying this in by college football playoff caliber. I think that means, right, you either get in or you almost get in, like South Carolina, Alabama. Those teams could have gotten in last year. They're right.
If I can clarify, you're on the graphic during the selection show.
Like that means you got in, or
either you're in or you're the first couple teams out.
Right. Okay. That's what I was thinking. And I think that Michigan has that capability for sure. I'm buying that. I think that they can be right in that mix this year, especially with the schedule. I do like this schedule. I think you avoid a lot of really good teams in the Big Ten, like Oregon, like Penn State. Really interested to watch Indiana and Illinois this weekend to see how those teams stack up against each other. But I think this team is good enough with this schedule to be right in that mix at the end of the year. But it will be much easier to answer this question next Monday than it was, and maybe we revisit it, right? But than it is now, because the Nebraska game is just so big. Given it's even bigger because you lost at Oklahoma for the playoff chances.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of covered my bases there. I said right now they're not, but if they win Saturday, I think they are. So, but as of this moment, with this question, is a CFP caliber team? I don't think so.
Yeah, this is where I'm Mr. Switzerland, Mr. Diplomat. I have no idea. I think coming into the year, I predicted Michigan would win 10 games. I predicted that they would be in the college football playoff. I think based on what we've seen right now, I'd probably slide my projection down to 9-3. But I think that they have a great chance to be there. So me setting the rules of the segment, I can just be Mr. Switzerland there. Be Mr. Neutral. So
no,
that's what I'll do.
We need a buy or sell. Come on.
Yeah, come on, man. This isn't buy, sell, or
I'm buying it. Sell it to me would almost say that there's almost no chance of it happening. I'm buying that it can happen. That it'd be different if we asked the question: are they going to be in the college football playoff? Are they a college football playoff caliber team? I would buy that idea more than I would sell it.